The Echo Chamber. The mountain town of Harrington was a picturesque community often lost in time. Craggy peaks loomed like watchful giants, and the air smelled of pine and untouched earth. It was a place where people moved to escape the crushing weight of urban existence, to live life at a slower pace. The colonial-style buildings, small mom-and-pop stores, and the quaint little library that stood at the town square seemed almost surreal, like stepping into a painting. Dr. Eleanor Weber stood at the edge of town, staring at the unassuming manhole that led to her life's work, the echo chamber. Her eyes were steel gray, almost mirroring the cold, metallic exterior of the underground facility below. A wisp of her dark hair escaped her tight bun and fluttered in the wind. She was a picture of poise, with an air of authority that commanded attention. Sheriff Tom Williams squinted at the manhole cover as he approached. His eyes had seen too much, years on the force, a life altered by tragedy, and now this bizarre intrusion into his sleepy town. A widower and father of two, his face bore wrinkles that weren't just from age but from sleepless nights and relentless worry. He adjusted his hat and focused his eyes on Eleanor. "Dr. Weber, this had better be good. People are getting curious, and not in a good way." Melanie, Eleanor's research assistant, stood beside her, holding a tablet. Her young face was a stark contrast to Eleanor's, marked by naivete and an insatiable curiosity. Her fingers nervously tapped on the screen as she avoided eye contact with Tom. Melanie was bright but lacked the backbone to stand up to Eleanor, something she often chastised herself for. "Trust me, Sheriff, good doesn't even begin to describe it," Eleanor smirked, lifting the manhole cover with a specialized key. The ground beneath them hummed, and a vertical shaft of light burst forth, bathing their faces in an eerie glow. Tom looked visibly unsettled. "Looks like something out of a science fiction movie." "Or a horror story," Melanie muttered under her breath, her fingers still dancing nervously on her tablet. Eleanor chuckled. "This, gentleman and lady, will revolutionize how we communicate, how we think, how we exist. Welcome to the Echo Chamber." Descending into the underground facility felt like entering the lair of some otherworldly creature. The walls were coated with a specialized soundproof material that swallowed noises, making footsteps eerily muted. A network of cables, like digital veins, crisscrossed the ceiling and connected to a central hub that resembled an immense glass-encased brain. This was the heart of the echo chamber. Eleanor led the way, her heels clicking softly against the smooth floor. Her eyes gleamed as she looked around, satisfied with her creation. Every electrical impulse, every flicker of emotion or thought captured, analyzed, and stored. We can replay them, study them, even modify them. Tom's skepticism was palpable. "You make it sound like we're in a goddamn superhero movie, Dr. Weber. People can barely handle social media. You think they're ready for this?" Melanie navigated through a series of holographic displays that floated above her tablet. Data streams and graphs populated the screens. She looked troubled, her eyes darting from one data point to another. The initial tests show incredible accuracy. It's almost like hearing someone's inner monologue, but, Eleanor interrupted, clearly not pleased with the hesitation. "But are we certain about the ethical implications? Once we capture these thoughts, who owns them? What's to stop them from being misused?" Melanie's voice trembled as she spoke, but she forced herself to meet Eleanor's gaze. Tom listened to the conversation, his eyes narrowing. His gut churned with an unease he couldn't shake off. The room itself felt like a giant ear, listening, capturing, storing. The idea of his innermost thoughts being made tangible was unsettling. Eleanor dismissed Melanie's concerns with a wave of her hand. "We've got layers of encryption and ethical guidelines, Melanie. Right now, we focus on the initial public test. We need volunteers, and we need this town to witness history." As they ascended back to the surface, Melanie couldn't shake off her growing dread. She felt like they were pulling at the threads of a fabric they didn't fully understand, unraveling something best left untouched. Word spread through Harrington like wildfire. A crowd gathered in the town square, their faces a mix of awe, skepticism, and raw curiosity. Mayor Rachel, a woman of grace but with a stern resolve, stood beside Tom as Eleanor prepared to showcase a miracle. "Are we ready to witness the future?" Eleanor's voice boomed through the speakers, her words echoed by the mountains surrounding them. Eleanor's demonstration was nothing short of spectacular. Volunteers were awestruck by the accuracy with which the echo chamber replayed their thoughts. The crowd erupted in applause, and for a brief moment the atmosphere was electric, almost magical. Mayor Rachel shook Eleanor's hand, her eyes reflecting both pride and caution. Tom, however, stood at the outskirts, his arms crossed, his gaze piercing. When a replayed thought of a volunteer mumbled, "What if this is all just a trick?" he couldn't help but nod subtly in agreement. That night, Melanie lay in her bed staring at the ceiling. Her apartment was modest, filled with scientific journals and potted plants that struggled to survive her erratic care. She felt like she was at the cusp of something extraordinary, but that very precipice seemed like the edge of an abyss. Her tablet buzzed with incoming data from the echo chamber, but she couldn't bring herself to look at it. 2 days after the unveiling, Tom started receiving the first complaints. Mrs. Henderson, the town's librarian, called him in a frazzled state. "It's the wind, Sheriff. It's whispering things, awful things that I've never told anyone." Tom tried to calm her down, attributing it to stress or imagination. But the call left him unsettled. It was the first of many. Simultaneously, bizarre incidents started cropping up. A local fisherman claimed that he heard a haunting lullaby coming from the depths of the lake. Another resident swore she saw the reflection of a long-deceased family member in her bathroom mirror, mouthing words she couldn't understand. A week into the experiments, Mayor Rachel called for a town meeting. The community center was filled to the brim, a cacophony of hushed conversations and palpable tension. "People of Harrington, we stand at the crossroads of progress and tradition," she began, her eyes sweeping across the crowd. "The echo chamber offers us a remarkable leap into the future, but we must be cautious. I've asked Sheriff Williams and Dr. Weber to address any concerns." Eleanor stepped forward, her confidence unwavering. "Fellow citizens, science often leads us into uncharted waters. Fear of the unknown is natural, but we mustn't let it deter us from seeking knowledge." Tom took the stage after her, his posture noticeably stiff. "All I ask is that you report any unusual occurrences directly to me. We don't know what we're dealing with, and it's my job to ensure everyone's safety." That very night, Tom had his first nightmare in years. He saw his deceased wife, Emma, standing in a room filled with shadows. Her eyes were hollow, her face distorted by an unseen terror. "Why did you let me go?" her voice echoed, each word stabbing him like a blade. He woke up in a cold sweat, panting. His eyes darted around the room, half expecting to see Emma's spectral form. The room was empty, but a chilling thought crossed his mind. Was his nightmare a product of his own grief, or something spawned by the echo chamber? Tension pervaded the underground facility. Melanie found herself alone late one evening, poring over logs and data sets, her eyes red from staring at the screen. A particular set of data points caught her eye, impulses that were anomalous, almost chaotic. Curiosity getting the better of her, Melanie decided to replay these thoughts through the facility's secure audio channel. What she heard made her blood run cold. A cacophony of voices filled the air, overlapping and indistinct. But among them, she recognized Dr. Weber's voice muttering obsessively about the pure form. Confused and increasingly alarmed, Melanie cautiously approached Dr. Weber the next day. "Eleanor, what exactly is the pure form you mentioned in your audio logs?" Eleanor's eyes widened for a fraction of a second before her composed demeanor returned. "It's the next step, Melanie. Imagine capturing the raw, unfiltered essence of human emotion, the core experience of love, sorrow, fear, all in its purest form. That's what we're striving for. Melanie felt like she was standing on unstable ground, her ethics and loyalty at war. Isn't that dangerous? Playing with the fabric of human emotion could have unintended consequences. Eleanor sighed, her eyes meeting Melanie's. Science has always been about pushing boundaries, my dear. We're on the brink of making history. The lead scientist paused before adding, I've been considering promoting you to co-director of this project. Think about it. This could be your legacy as much as it's mine. Melanie was stunned. The offer was tempting, a chance to imprint her name on a revolutionary scientific advancement. Yet the weight of ethical implications bore down on her like a mountain. Meanwhile, Tom started documenting the incidents reported by the townspeople. He turned the small sheriff's office into a makeshift investigation room, pinning pictures, notes, and maps on the wall. Despite his pragmatic nature, even he couldn't dismiss the unsettling pattern that was forming. Just when the tension seemed unbearable, a new character entered Harrington. Henry, a journalist intrigued by the echo chamber's promise and the whispered rumors surrounding it. Tall, with a scruffy beard and glasses that perpetually slid down his nose. Henry smelled like a mixture of coffee and impending deadlines. His first meeting with Tom was filled with uneasy silence and forced politeness. I hope you don't mind the intrusion, Sheriff. Small towns aren't usually my beat, but the echo chamber story is too compelling to ignore. Tom eyed him warily. Just be careful what you dig up. Some things are better left buried. That night, the disturbances escalated. Tom received frantic calls from multiple households. The voices and apparitions were growing clearer, more menacing. Worse, people were starting to experience physical symptoms. Inexplicable scratches, intense cold spots in homes, migraines that pierced like ice picks. Tom knew he couldn't ignore it any longer. Something was horribly wrong, and it seemed to emanate from the very project that promised to revolutionize their lives. As he sat in his office, gripping the phone until his knuckles whitened, he decided it was time to confront Dr. Weber and put an end to this, before the unknown horrors escalated beyond their control. Tom, Eleanor, Melanie, and Mayor Rachel convened in an emergency meeting. Tension was so thick it could be cut with a knife. Tom got straight to the point. Dr. Weber, whatever you've unleashed with this echo chamber, it needs to be shut down. Now. Eleanor looked incredulous. Based on what? Some local folklore and mass hysteria? This was the moment Melanie had been dreading. She took a deep breath. Actually, I've found anomalies in the data, echoes that shouldn't exist, voices that don't belong to any of our volunteers. And I've heard you, Eleanor, speaking about something called the pure form. What is that? Eleanor's face hardened. You've been snooping through confidential data? Tom intervened. Answer the question, Dr. Weber. Eleanor sighed. Fine. The pure form is an advanced stage of our research, a stage where we don't just capture thoughts and emotions, but can also project them, in their most elemental form, into the world. The room fell silent. The implication was horrifyingly clear. The echo chamber was not just listening. It was speaking back into the world, affecting not just people's minds, but reality itself. Henry, having been allowed to sit in on the meeting for journalistic transparency, broke the silence. If that's true, then what we're experiencing isn't just a glitch. It's a complete breakdown of the boundary between thought and reality. Our nightmares, fears, regrets, they're leaking into the world. Mayor Rachel was the first to regain her composure. Then there's only one course of action. We must shut it down immediately. Eleanor looked like she was about to object, but a look from Tom silenced her. I'll go, Melanie offered. I know the system best. After Eleanor. Melanie descended into the echo chamber with a sense of impending doom. Her fingers trembled as she input the shutdown commands. That's when she heard it. the cacophony of whispers coalescing into a single, chilling voice that echoed around her. "So you think you can silence us, Melanie?" She froze. It was her own voice, tinged with an ominous echo, a distortion that made her skin crawl. Simultaneously, Tom, who was patrolling the town, heard the same haunting lullaby that the fisherman claimed to hear. The notes hung in the air, suspended like invisible threads of a spider's web. Suddenly, his radio crackled to life, Emma's voice coming through, distorted but unmistakable. "Tom, why did you let me go?" His hands clenched into fists. His deepest guilt, his most intimate pain, had been weaponized. Melanie, gathering every ounce of her courage, completed the shutdown sequence. The room plunged into darkness for a split second before the emergency lights flickered on. The whispering stopped. The cable networks went limp, like severed arteries. It took weeks for the town to return to some semblance of normality. Eleanor's project was terminated, the facility sealed. Melanie declined the co-director offer, choosing instead to become a whistleblower about the dangers of unregulated scientific exploration. Henry wrote a scathing exposé that turned Harrington into a cautionary tale, but many labeled it sensationalism, finding it easier to deny the terrifying reality. As for Tom, he continued to serve as the town's sheriff, but with a newfound caution towards the boundary between science and the supernatural, a boundary that had been shattered, showing him and the town the horrors that lurked in the depths of their own minds. And so, the echo chamber was buried, its dark echoes silenced, but not forgotten. Harrington returned to its idyllic routines, but its residents, especially those who had heard their fears whispered back to them, knew that some doors are better left unopened.